talking about memorials. In the book of Genesis, in chapter 28, verse 18, it says, "So early in the morning, Jacob took one stone that he had put under his head and set it up for a pillar and poured oil on top of it. He called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of the city was Luz at the first. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, 'If God be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and clothing to wear, so that I may come again to my father's house in peace, then the Lord shall be my God, and this stone which I have set up for a pillar shall be God's house. And all that you give me, I will give a full tenth to you.'" Then later on in the book of Exodus, in the 16th chapter, in verse 30, starting in verse 32, Moses said, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Let an omer of it be kept throughout your generations, so that they may see the bread with which I fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you out of the land of Egypt." And Moses said to Aaron, "Take a jar and put an omer of manna in it, and place it before the Lord to be kept throughout your generations, as the Lord commanded Moses, and as Aaron placed it before the testimony to be kept." The people of Israel ate the manna 40 years till they came into a habitable land. They ate the manna till they came to the border of the land of Canaan. And then later on in the book of Joshua, chapter 4, Joshua stacked the 12 stones where they crossed the Jordan into the promised land. One thing that, being a history buff, I enjoy cemeteries, and I enjoy looking at memorials that people set up in cemeteries. And it's very easy to walk through a cemetery and find a memorial that's 200, 300 years old that you can't read anymore. The names, the weather has taken the names off, or I don't know what it's called, but the greenish film goes over top of it. And memorials eventually fade and pass away. Same thing with a lot of the memorials that the Roman Empire and the Greek empires built. Those memorials aren't there anymore. Over time, they fell apart. They went into ruin. But there's two memorials that I want to talk about real quick. In Mark chapter 14, says, the writer goes, "And while he was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he was reclining at the table, a woman came with an alabaster flask of ointment, very costly, and she broke the flask and poured it over his head. There were some that said to themselves, 'Why was this ointment wasted like this? For this ointment could have been sold for more than 300 denarius and given to the poor.' And they scolded her. But Christ said, 'Leave her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has done such a beautiful thing to me. For you always have the poor with you. Whenever you want, you can do good for them. But you will not always have me. She has done what she could. She has anointed my body beforehand for burial. And truly I say to you, wherever the gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in memory of her.'" That is a memorial that has never faded. And the most important memorial, and one that Christ could have picked anything for his memorial. But he picked two things that are readily available anywhere in the world at any given time. Matthew chapter 26, the writer says, "Now as they were eating, Jesus took the bread, and after blessing it, broke it and gave it to the disciples and said, 'Take, eat, this is my body.' And he took a cup, and when he had given it thanks, he gave it to them, saying, 'Drink of it, all of you, for this is the blood of the covenant which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I will tell you, I will not eat or drink of this again until that day which I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom.'" For 2,000 years, this memorial has been celebrated by Christians on the first day of the week. It's a memorial that is not faded, unlike man-made memorials. It's a memorial for us to remember that Christ left his home in heaven. He came here for each one of us to die on that cross and endure that suffering for each and every one of us. So let's remember this as we partake of the Lord's Supper.